Welcome back to Soda City Live. Back to school season also means back to sports for your kids, or perhaps maybe even you yourself are in a fall sports league of some sort. But before you take the field or the court or whatever have you, a local physical therapist is sharing some tips on how to return to sports safely, especially if you've had an injury in the past. So joining me today is Dr. Laura Montgomery with Physical Therapy and Balance Center, your regional director there. Thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk about this just because, we are in back to school season and a lot of kids are, back to soccer or football or whatever it is. But, you guys reached out and you're like, we want to make sure that people are taking their time or at least listening to their body when they head back out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the big thing is, they've either gone to school and gone off for a few months to the summer and now they're venturing back into sports, or they've had an injury over the summer and are easing their way back in. The biggest thing is just making sure they're ready and they ease back into sports and that they've done the proper training to get back to sports appropriately.
What are some of the most common injuries that you see in your offices?
So we see a lot of shoulder injuries, whether it's instability, rotator cuff, spine strains, hamstrings, quads, knee, ACL, meniscus.
And do you think a lot of that is just like not giving your body either the proper stretching or like what I'm wondering with like students in terms of like why this subject is so important for you guys?
So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that either they've gone from just being relatively sedentary or just not even getting back into sports. They've been out of the weight room. They have, they've been pretty much just ramping up practice pretty quickly. And
it goes from like nothing to everything.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of times they do 2-week intensive camps right before, and it's just a lot on their body, especially if they haven't been in sport specific training.
So what are some ways that you guys at your offices share with your athletes of how to kind of like get your body used to all of that once again?
So we usually say make sure you ease back in, don't go full speed right away. So we want to make sure that if they've had injury, they've regained their strength, they've regained their mobility, and most importantly, they've got back into sport-specific training. So a lot of times that's kind of what's missed is they think that they're good, they've gotten their strength, they've gotten mobility, but they haven't practiced cutting or sprinting or made sure that they've gotten that sense of balance and stability back. So they get back into practice, they start going into the sport specific side of training, and well, they get re-injured because they had their strength and mobility, but they weren't ready to kind of handle the more intensive moves.
Right. Well, I want to bring up some tips that you shared with us before the show of kind of how to ease yourself back in, and maybe you can walk us through some of those if we can pull them up. Absolutely. Yeah, right there. Reintroducing activity slowly. You kind of just talked about that, but being honest about your abilities. What do you mean by that?
So being honest about your abilities is just not pushing the gas too fast. So if you haven't been running or if you haven't really tested the water, don't go straight into a game or straight into a practice and assume that you can do it. So you need to make sure that you're aware of what you have and haven't attempted so that you can safely do it without re-injuring yourself.
Work up to that point. Yeah. And then focus on building strength.
So yeah, I mean,
it's just a lot of people that don't really focus on like strength training.
Maybe not appropriate strength training.
Okay,
so they've been easing into the weightlifting but a lot of it is postural stability, making sure that the foundations have been laid so they get straight back into the gym, but maybe as far as their core or as far as a lot of like the smaller muscles that help to stabilize, like your rotator cuff, which you have to really work under 5 pounds to appropriately hit.
Oh wow.
So just small things like that.
And then last but not least, and I think this is a big one that's sometimes hard for all of us, but listen to your body.
Yeah. They're eager to get back out there. They don't want to miss practice. They don't want to miss a game, but the reality is maybe they weren't quite ready yet.
Yeah.
So just making sure that they are listening, they're in tune, they're not pushing through pain and pushing that threshold too far.
Well, before we wrap up, I think we think of physical therapists a lot of time as like you go there after you've been injured, right? And you don't always think of like some of the stuff that the resources and the stretches and exercises that you guys give as ways to prevent future injury. Correct. What are some ways that maybe folks at home, like if they're thinking about prevention, like before that injury, hopefully they don't get there, what can they do at home?
So at home, really just, it's really hard to say what to do at home. I would almost more encourage them to, if they're unsure of whether they're ready for something or how to kind of properly get back, talk to their trainers, talk to their coaches, or
Yeah.
even, get into a physical therapist's office. And, we offer free screens as our company for some of the sports related injuries, just
Okay.
if you're unsure of what needs to be done. But also, you can do prehab, or if you've had an injury.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, prehab. So
Yeah.
if you've had an injury and you're just not sure if you're quite ready, we can do a couple weeks of therapy just to kind of get you back to that
Yeah.
transition and make sure all the foundation is laid so that we don't have an injury.
Get you like a professional gut check, like
Exactly,
if you're ready
yeah.
to go, which I really
Exactly.
appreciate. Last, before we wrap up here, just where can folks find you, the physical offices?
So yeah, we have two offices. One's off Longs Pond Road in Lexington, and the other is off where Old Cherokee and Old Chapin meet.
Okay,
So
perfect.
both are located conveniently in Lexington.
Nice.
So they can reach out to us at either office, and we'll get them taken care of.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thanks so much for
All right,
coming in
thank
here
you.
and chatting with us. We have much more Soda City Live coming up after this short break, so stay with us.